It was not a Merry Christmas for the San Francisco 49ers. So much hype going into this game on Christmas evening at Levi Stadium in Santa Clara between the number one seed in the NFC in San Francisco, the number one seed in the AFC in the Baltimore Ravens. And San Francisco simply did not show up in this football game. Your final score, 33-19, and we're recapping it all here on the 49ers Report by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr. Despite the loss, I do hope all of you out there did have a fantastic Christmas with your families, as well as your loved ones and those who are very, very close to you. This game comes down to this simple statement right here. When you lose the turnover battle in the National Football League, you lose 70 to 80% of your games. San Francisco turned the ball over 5 times against Baltimore. This is a Ravens defense that was allowing 16 points per game, number 1 in the NFL, and they're so good at defensive line, at linebacker, at corner, and at safety. Baltimore, number 1 in the league in sacks. This is a very well-constructed football team. So when you turn the ball over 5 times against an elite team like this, and then San Francisco's defense is put in an unfair position because of the offensive incompetence, and the Baltimore Ravens, who are the number 1 rushing team in the NFL, have Lamar Jackson, who I think solidified the MVP award tonight, and he has the best semblance of weapons around him that he's had in his career, despite Mark Andrews being out with a leg injury. And Baltimore is able to score on 7 consecutive drives, the first time that the Niners have allowed that to happen since 2005. That was a recipe for disaster for San Francisco. Brock Purdy was not good. He threw 4 interceptions. 3 of them came on deflections, fluky plays, but San Francisco had an opportunity to really take control of this game. And it came early in the first quarter, and that's when I believe the momentum of this game changed, and everything went downhill for the Niners. Niners defense was looking to make a statement against Baltimore, and they forced a 3-and-out on the Ravens' first drive of the ballgame. San Francisco then drives down the field. Big third-down conversion on a huge play from Brock Purdy to George Kittle, and San Francisco gets set up in the red zone. This is an opportunity here to take an early 7-0 lead. And what happens? Brock Purdy goes through his progressions. He's a little bit late getting to Deebo Samuel, who's crossing the field, and it wasn't his first read. And because he was late to read that play and late to throw it to Deebo, he did not account for Kyle Hamilton. Very good second-year safety out of Notre Dame, who went out in this game with a knee injury. He got picked. So you go from having an opportunity to make a statement, to take that early advantage, to take a 7-0 lead, and you're in control from that point. We know that San Francisco is so dominant when playing from ahead. They're able to control and dictate the pace of the game. After that, it went downhill. Now, the Niners were still able to go up 5-0 in this game. A safety on Lamar Jackson, a Jake Moody field goal. But from that point, the Niners outscored 13-7 in the second quarter, and then Baltimore goes on a 17-0 run in the third quarter to really make this game impossible to come back from for the Niners. Baltimore able to take a 33-12 advantage. San Francisco did everything they could to kind of come back in this game and to make it somewhat interesting. They got down to the 1-yard line. They had 3 timeouts with about 2 minutes left, and they couldn't get it into the end zone. You score there, and you make it a 7-point game. You have 3 timeouts. You force a 3-and-out. You're still working with a minute and change to come back and score 7 points against this number 1 rated Baltimore Ravens defense. So you're on the outside looking in of actually being able to pull off that comeback, but you put yourselves in a hole, and when you turn the ball over 5 times against a team that's this good, it is impossible to win at the NFL level. A lot of you might be saying that the Niners are frauds, that this is a game that is going to linger. For me, with the way that the Niners were able to come back, they moved the football in this game. They put up 429 yards of offense. They averaged 6.3 yards per play against the Ravens. But again, at inopportune moments. And when the Niners had a little bit of momentum, or when they were around midfield, they turned the football over. That gave the Ravens a short field, and to Baltimore's credit, they were able to take advantage. San Francisco ran 18 times for 121 yards against what is arguably the best rushing defense in the NFL. So you look at some of these numbers, and the scoreboard looked bad when the Niners are down 33-12. But some of the positives here is that if you don't turn the rock over 5 times, is this game different? And I think it is. Yards per play, 6.3. Yards per carry, 6.7. Time of possession, nearly identical here. Turnovers, though, 5. And the Ravens did not turn the football over one time in this game. Now, before we get to our sponsor, the Ravens are a team that their organizational philosophy is to be mentally tough, mentally sound, and then physically tough and physically sound. Does that type of identity sound familiar to all of you? That's what San Francisco prides itself on being a physically tough team that can beat you up, that can control the line of scrimmage, that is going to wear you down. The Niners got a taste of their own medicine. And what happened to San Francisco is what they've done to a lot of teams this year, where they take that early lead, they make you uncomfortable, and throughout the course of a 60-minute ball game, their talent wins, their physicality is able to win, and it kind of just chokes you out like an anaconda. For San Francisco, they didn't really respond well to getting punched in the chin. And this goes back to some of the concerns that I voiced for this football team when they lost those 3 straight games after starting the season 5-0. How can they play when having to come from behind, especially against an elite team? And during that 3-game losing streak, they didn't respond well to that adversity. And tonight, they didn't respond well to that adversity. I will also say that the only way I think that the Niners get bounced early in the playoffs, or if they get upset, is if they turn the ball over and if they beat themselves. And in this game, San Francisco beat themselves, but Baltimore is also a damn good team. More to get to, but first, make sure you download the Prize Picks app. If you're into daily fantasy, this is the largest independently run daily fantasy sports app in North America. It's daily fantasy sports made easy. You pick 2 or more players. You choose more or less on their projected stat lines, and this is an opportunity for you to win real money. Head to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use the code CLNS. My picks for this game, Brandon Aiyuk, more than 4.5 catches, cashed in. Christian McCaffrey, more than a half touchdown, cashed in. And Lamar Jackson, more than 199.5 passing yards. He got that as well. The only one that I didn't get was Chase Young, only had to get a half sack. And I think that this is a gap in the rules at the NFL level. Chase Young should have had a sack of Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson got called for an intentional grounding. He had a half sack? Oh, so we won. So they gave him a half sack. There we go. We're a winner. Now, he should have had a sack and a half, because when the quarterback is in the end zone and just throws the ball away, the quarterback is penalized and the opposing offense is penalized with a intentional grounding. The defensive player who takes that quarterback down should be given a sack. They're not. But we hit 4 for 4. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. I cashed in, and if you would have tailed me, you could have cashed in as well. But cash in next time. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. Code CLNS. Now, with San Francisco, excuse me, I'm still getting over a cold here, so bear with me. I was live all day on Christmas. With the Niners here, some injuries that we are definitely concerned about. Trent Williams went out with the groin. You had, at one point, Colton McKivitz moving from right tackle to left tackle. And you had Spencer Burford playing right tackle. And because this Ravens defensive line, number 1 in the league in sacks, they were pressuring Purdy, making things uncomfortable for him all throughout the day, offensive line really struggled, and Purdy went down with the stinger. This is the second consecutive week in which Brock Purdy has suffered a stinger. With the Niners traveling across country to take on a Commanders team they should beat, with Jacoby Brissett now the quarterback, the status of Brock Purdy is going to be very, very interesting. The Niners offensive line and the status of that unit also going to be interesting because Trent Williams, groin injury. Jaylon Moore, who replaced him, also left with a groin injury. And then you had Aaron Banks go down too. So the Niners potentially in this game may have lost 3 starters along the offensive line. And why is this a little bit of a concern? Washington traded away Chase Young, traded away Montez Sweat. It's not really the team that you're worried about in the Commanders. You should be able to win with backup offensive linemen, even though the Niners had no backup offensive linemen left in this game. And you should be able to win with Sam Darnold, who I thought played really, really well. 8 of 14, 81 yards, a touchdown to Ronnie Bell. But if you're without 3 members of your starting offensive line for an extended period of time, ladies and gentlemen, there are 2 weeks left, 2 games left in the regular season. And you have the Commanders who are trying to play spoiler, and then the Los Angeles Rams, who are arguably the hottest team in football, clicking on all cylinders right now. They're going to be playing for a playoff spot and maybe looking to knock off San Francisco as the number 1 seed in the NFC. Some major injury concerns for San Francisco, for Brock Purdy, for Trent Williams, for Aaron Banks, and all along this offensive line with Jaylon Moore as a backup as well. The good news here, despite the Niners playing awful, shooting themselves in the foot, pre-snap penalties, false starts, illegal formations. Defensively, Tashaun Gibson was penalized twice on one play. That led to a score for the Ravens. Turning the football over. The Niners shot themselves in the foot. Drop passes from Debo. They shot themselves in the foot. And they're really to blame. They got to look themselves in the mirror, and they got to correct a lot of these issues. The good news is San Francisco, with 2 games remaining, is still the number 1 seed in the NFC. They have 11-4 record. The Eagles have an 11-4 record. The Lions have an 11-4 record. You don't really have to worry about Philadelphia getting that number 1 seed because San Francisco won the head-to-head. Unless the Niners lose one more game, the Eagles win out, that opens up the door for Philadelphia to maybe get that number 1 seed. The team you also have to look out for, the Detroit Lions, on the road against the Cowboys this upcoming Saturday, and then they round out with the Vikings 2 times in 3 weeks. So those are some of the concerns, but some of the good news for San Francisco. You look down the stat sheet again, you look at some of the numbers here. This is the number 1 defense in the NFL. Brock Purdy, 18 of 32, 255, 4 interceptions. Not good. Couple of them off deflection, so a little bit fluky. He sacked twice for 8 yards, though. Sam Darnold sacked twice, and Brock Purdy was pressured a lot. He had a quarterback rating of 42.6. That ain't good. So he was bad. But the Niners, as we noted a little bit earlier, able to have a solid yards per play offensively. So again, they move the ball, but they just turn it over too much. And then those turnovers led to Baltimore Ravens points, and that's what led to 7 consecutive scoring drives for Baltimore. But Christian McCaffrey, number 1 rushing defense again, for Baltimore, 14 carries, 103 yards. And then you look at some of these numbers right here. George Kittle, 7 catches for 126. This Ravens team has superb linebacker play with Patrick Queen and Roquan Smith, an excellent secondary. Kittle tore him apart. Brandon Aiyuk, 6 catches, 113 yards. Some of those numbers misleading a little bit because Baltimore playing a little bit of prevent defense late in the game, but you had some big performances. This is one of those classic games where the scoreboard here looks a lot uglier than the game actually was. Because are you counting on San Francisco to turn it over 5 times, to be sloppy, to commit a bunch of penalties week in and week out? That is not their identity. San Francisco came into this game with 12 turnovers. That was the fewest in the National Football League. And tonight they turn it over 5 times. So that's a large chunk of their overall turnovers this year. They've been a clean team, but in this game they were not, and you can't afford to have those lapses against such an elite team. The job against Lamar Jackson, I didn't think that this Niners defense was atrocious, not awful by any means. They contained Lamar. Lamar only ran it 7 times for 45 yards, but his ability, and he's done a great job of developing this and growing on this. When he was a little bit younger, and I've always thought Lamar was underrated. He's been a good passer for a long time. The offense never really did him favors without weaponry, and they were too reliant on the run game. But early in his career, Lamar, when he got pressured, he would always resort to his legs to try to make a play. Now, though, he has this great pocket sense. He's able to get out to the right, get out to the left. And what he does now, better than what he did when he was a younger player, keep his eyes up. And when he was a younger player, eyes would go down. He'd run because if you have stupid ability and you don't use it, sometimes you want to rely on your natural ability, your running ability, and you want to tap into those strengths. It's like having a Lamborghini in the garage, and you're not going to push it at 100 miles per hour here and there on the highway. Like sometimes you just got to do it, right? With Lamar, though, he's extending plays, he's keeping his eyes up, and he's able to make throws downfield, and that's what makes him dangerous. And in this game, I think that he all but solidified the MVP award. Dak's not going to win it. 2 losses in December. Buffalo, Miami, back-to-back. Brock Purdy's not going to win it after 4 picks now. Tyreek Hill, Christian McCaffrey might have an opportunity to do it. But tomorrow, when the new MVP odds come out on Monday, I think Lamar Jackson is going to be the MVP favorite. Will the Niners turn it around? Will they respond to what happened on Monday Night Football? Type yes, type no, let us know. And as always, we appreciate you for watching the show.